Welcome to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Today we have a special guest, Coach Carlos Locklyn, better known as Coach Lock. He is the running backs coach at Western Kentucky University. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Well, good to hear, Coach. And I appreciate you coming on, kind of like as we spoke before. And you've kind of had an interesting climb from a longtime high school assistant, and we kind of talked a little bit about that before you came on, to now being the running backs coach of Western Kentucky. Um, what really first thing I want to ask was what was that transition like from being a longtime high school assistant to doing a variety of roles, which we'll touch on here in the next couple minutes, um, at the college level.
Um, it was a journey. It wasn't easy. Um, Gave me a great appreciation for building a relationship with individuals. Gave me a great appreciation for being able to serve not only young men but coaches that I came in contact with. So it hasn't been easy. It has been a journey. But if I had to do it all over again, I would do it the same way. I didn't want nobody giving me anything in this profession. I wanted to be able to earn my way in the profession. And I don't knock the guys who have been given positions. And I wasn't fortunate. No, I wasn't one of those guys. I work for everything that's coming my way, and that's the only way I like doing things. I'm gonna work for it.
Okay. And like, so I kind of want to hit on kind of each of those because I'm kind of curious because you see certain guys with off the field titles, and I think as even us as coaches, but even non coaches don't necessarily know exactly what that role titles, and I think that role maybe changes from program to program. So like I mean, I'm just gonna kind of hit on a couple of these real quick. Is what does a director of high school relations actually do?
Director of high school, that was a perfect position for me, allowing me to connect with high school coaches. Of course, the high school coaches have a product every university want, the kids. And right now, a lot of college coaches, they're taking the high school coaches out of the recruiting process. I talk to a lot of high school coaches, and when I call and tell them I offer their kids, that's something that I learned from the guys that I had been around in my short college coach career from guys like a Davey X Johnson or Alice Atkins or Marcus Woodson. Those guys that I've been around there at Florida State. I saw those guys. They always contacted the head high school football coach, and I asked them why they did it, because, like I said, those coaches still are involved with those kids. So I kind of took that, and I started doing the same thing once I got here to reach out to those high school coaches. Well, being the director of high school relations, it helped me because I was able to build great relationship with high school coaches across the country. Being a resource, a liaison per se for the high school coaches and the coaching staff at the time that I was on at Florida State, being able to connect with those coaches, getting them in communication with the coaches that recruited their area. So director of high school relations job really consists of you being a liaison between your staff and the high school coaches all through America.
Okay. But at the same time, do you focus more on maybe your recruiting based coaches than necessarily? I mean, obviously, if anybody contacts you, you're going to communicate with them. But is your regular everyday communication usually within that initial broad recruiting area, like that 3 to 5 hour radius that a lot of universities talk about?
You got guys do that with me. I kind of just reached out to coaches. I didn't care if they was in Alaska, Nevada. I didn't care. I just reached out to coaches all over the place because, like I said, the greatest thing about this profession that I think a lot of coaches, high school coaches or younger coaches trying to get into the profession, the greatest thing about this profession is building relationships. That's what I like most about it. I like pouring into young men, but I like the relationships that you're able to build with people. Because football is football. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of guys and coaches, got a lot of guys who say they're the greatest at coaching this and coaching that, but it's the impact that you're able to make, not just on the young men that you're coaching, but the impact that you are able to leave on the men that you're around every day. And to me, that's the greatest thing about this profession.
Okay. And then I kind of want to move on to your next role. And I actually, like when I originally messaged you, I actually labeled it wrong. An offensive analyst, like I'm curious about this. Like, what do you, actually? Let's start there. What is a broad, general, like everyday duty of an offensive analyst?
I learned a lot of that on right, and I had a guy who, he's at Florida State now. He's senior analyst, but when I first got to Memphis, he was the first guy that kind of pulled me in. He was a GA at the time, a guy named Tony Tokart. Kind of taught me the role of I watched him every day and what he was doing. And you talking about analysts, normally they break down film, fronts, secondary coverages, from years past, for upcoming film breakdown for teams you have to play. They draw the play cards, things of that nature. It's a lot of things that goes into that. It's to me, I think it's a great position for a young coach to learn the administration part of football.
Okay, and then like how detailed did that stuff get as the longer you did it throughout the season?
I mean, all your work with that right there is done before the season.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of work that goes in with the GAs and analysts and that they do during the season. Like I said, they're the guys that doing all the hard work behind the scene.
Okay. And then we'll move on to kind of, I mean, we mentioned earlier that you were a long time high school assistant and worked your way up and and as an offensive coordinator, and we talked off screen about kind of the various positions you held. You've kind of coached every position on offense throughout your career. How does that success and your experience being a high school offensive coordinator translate now to you going back to on-field coaching as a running back coach at Western Kentucky?
Well, since I got in this business, in this profession per se, I never looked at myself as anything different than a on the field coach. Okay. Now, my title may not have said that, but that's not like I always tell people, your reality and my reality do two different things. Your opinion, what you think I am, and my reality, what I know I am, two different things. So I always carried myself and tried to learn as if I was already an on the field coach. I carried myself that way. And that was my mindset the whole time. Like, okay, I know I'm starting off in Memphis. I'm a volunteer. Don't nobody know me. I gotta work my way, do everything. But in my mind, I'm a football coach. I'm an on the field coach. And the things I can say this that I take from coaching high school ball there in that great city of Memphis. And I tell people all the time, no matter how high I climb or how far I go in this profession, I'm always going to look at myself as being a local Memphis high school coach. Because though I'm not from Memphis, I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. But those coaches there, that's what I represent. So I have to be successful at what I do because I tell everybody, I represent those guys there in that city because being a high school football coach, and at that time I didn't work in the school. I wasn't a head coach. I had no players to offer a college coach. All that I had to offer a college coach when I walked on was my hard work. But you get that hard work from that grind by being there in that city of Memphis. It rubs off on you. And the things I take from coaching high school ball there in that city is this. If you're able to coach high school ball in Memphis and deal with not just the football part, but the young men, the environments that they come from, if you're able to deal with those situations, coaching anywhere else is easy. It teaches you how to deal with young men who don't come from the same background, who come from different backgrounds, who have problems. I remember picking kids up from home, getting them to school, feeding them off the McDonald's $1 menu. Because it was more than just coaching ball, but those things prepared me on how to serve players on the collegiate level. It ain't just football. It's a lot that goes in with that. But I learned all those lessons coaching high school football there in Memphis, and I didn't have the greatest resource. I remember I had to build my own single man chutes out of PVC pipe, and I had to build an open chute. I had to be creative in things that I had to do, and that money came out of my pocket because I wanted the kids to have the best. I wanted to give them every advantage that I could for them to be successful. I wasn't even thinking about me coaching college. All that I want to do was I was happy coaching high school football, and I pointed to the young men there in the Memphis area. So those lessons that I learned coaching there in that city, is part of who I am now. It's part of my DNA to work hard and grind. And like I said, I always think of myself as a local Memphis high school football coach.
Okay, that's fantastic, Coach. And I've kind of had some similar experiences working with certain parts and having to give rides home and help feed kids. And I mean, I think as a high school coach, and especially in certain areas that are where kids struggle a little bit more. That
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of I don't responsibility is probably a bad word, but that is what good coaches should do is take care of their players and take care of the kids.
Well, I
Go
think
ahead.
a lot of times and I learned this from the guy I was up under for 4 years. And as much as I know, I talk about Mike Norvell probably more than anybody. But as much as I take the X and the O's from Coach Norvell, it was just the word service that stuck with me. Because if you look at it, all of us are football coaches, but we are servant leaders. Yeah, I mean, when you're a football coach, you have a major impact on young men's lives and having the ability to mold those young men into better young men. So, like I said, you are a servant leader, if I can use that word, when you're coaching. So that's the one thing I took from this just being in coaching. That's one thing I pride myself on, being able to serve the young men, pour into them, because that's the most important thing. As my guy David Yak Johnson said, the running back coach down there at Florida State said, football gonna end one day. It's gonna end one day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those young men, they may not remember you teaching them how to run over bags. They may not remember you teaching them how to perform a proper tackle, but what they will remember is they'll remember this. They'll remember what you poured into them, how to carry themselves, pull the pants up, dress accordingly. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No. They remember those things that you poured into them when football is long gone. So that's the most important thing about coaching ball is the standard that you're able to set with those young men that you coach every day. It ain't always X and O. It's the standard that you give them to live by, things that you pour into them about. That's the greatest thing about coaching. Because like I said, football will end one day. Those kids may never remember any X and O's or how to run power, counter, footworks. But what they will remember, man, I remember this guy pointing to me, telling me to be on time, telling me how to conduct myself, telling me how to be a productive citizen in this world. They always remember that.
I mean, I wish I had something smart to say to follow that, Coach. I don't. Like that just ruins it. Like I mean, so let's I mean, I think we've hit on very good, important things, and I'm not going to say we're about to talk some running back play, and yeah, I'm not going to say it's not important, but compared to what you just talked about, it kind of is not nearly as important. Um, but I mean, you obviously played college ball. You played offense and defense at Chattanooga. You started on both sides of the ball. You were very successful. You were an undrafted free agent initially with the Giants before you played arena ball. Um, and you've worked at Memphis and Florida State. Now you're at Western Kentucky. What, in your opinion, based off all the people based off all the experience as a high school coach and as a college assistant so far, what are the kind of keys to developing running backs in your opinion, based off your experiences?
Well, I always say this, and I don't want nobody in college football to take this because I'm one of the most humble people you're probably gonna meet. I'm a humble individual. I don't have an ego or anything like that. I am a competitive person. I'm a humble person as well. But I would say this, I played the position of running back. Uh, Anybody that knows me, they know when it comes to the history of the game of football, running backs or whatever, I'm big on that because I love the game. Played the position of running back since I was a young kid. Very good at it, very successful at it in high school and college. But I think about the coaches that I had that coached me the positions. And I think about the guys who coach, running back throughout this profession. Running backs don't always have the greatest coaches.
Yeah.
I think it's just my opinion. I think it's one of the worst coach positions in football. I do. I tell people all the time, I coach running backs like a quarterback coach quarterbacks because that's what we are. We just don't throw the ball. I think a running back should be just as smart as a quarterback. I should be able to call out protections. I should be able to know where I fit at in pass protection. I should know where I fit at in the run game because a running back has to be three things now in this day and time. He has to be a pass protector. He has to be smart now being a pass protector. He has to be a runner. He has to be a receiver. Those are the things that running backs have to be now. So when I pour into running backs, I'm real big on footwork. I'm talking about your initial because every run concept requires different footwork. Mm-hmm. For pressing, attacking, I'm real big on eye discipline, training the eyes, not to peek at the ball when you attack the hole. It throws off your reaction, getting through the holes. I'm real big on certain things I call putting in your toolbox because you're not going to be able to outrun everybody. You're not going to be able to run over everybody. So certain things that you need to be able to put in your toolbox to be successful. And I tell running backs this all the time. It's two things a running back need to know how to do. He needs to know how to initiate contact and avoid contact on his own terms. So you have to give running backs these necessary tools for them to be successful. I like getting running backs on the board. I want to see them drop counter. I want to see them drop power. I want to see them, draw inside zone, outside zone, because if they can draw it up, they know where they fit in these concepts. It makes them a better player. Coach Novelli's always had this term, make knowledge your greatest talent. I took a hold of that. Make knowledge your greatest talent. You got a lot of guys out here who runs 4.3s, 4.4s, 4.5s, 4.6, whatever. But it doesn't it's not any good if they're running in the wrong direction. Or they have no idea where they're supposed to be running to. So those are things I like pouring into the position of running back. I got other things that I pour into them, but those things that I keep to myself, and I'm always passing on knowledge. But I coach backs, so no different than anybody else. Not saying I'm different, any better than anybody else, but in my mind, I am. I work my butt off. I'm just a competitive guy, and there's a lot of running back coaches in the profession that I got unbelievable respect for. Guys that I got 5 guys that I watch in the profession that I'm big on. One of them is everybody enemy. He's a hell of a running back coach. He's really at the top of the list. And there's some other guys that Stan Drayton and some other guys that I look at that are really good running back coaches that I like. So I kind of watch what they do and take some things from them that I see that they do with the running backs, and I try to apply it to the guys that I'm around.
I'm just going to say this since you mentioned Eric Bieniemy. It is an absolute travesty he's not head football coach in the NFL. And I say that as a Bengals fan who thought they should have hired him 2 years ago. But that is what that is, unfortunately. And but again, the 2 you just listed out of the 5 you look at that's a pretty good group of 2 to look.
There's some good ones.
Yeah.
Burton Barnes, that's another name I like. Like I said, he left Alabama with the Giants now, and that's another guy. Stump Mitchell, that's another name of a guy that coached running backs that I like. And like I said, it's a few guys that I look at that coach the position that I have a lot of respect for. And most of the guys that I named, guess what position they played? They played. Those are guys I got a lot of respect for. And Deuce Staley would be the other guy that I got a lot of respect for. But most of those guys, they play running back, so I kind of watch what they do. It's a few others I haven't named that I'm big on as well.
Well, I mean, again, I don't have any smart words to follow that. The other thing I want to ask you about running backs is just out of curiosity, and obviously this is your first season coaching running backs full time in college, but again, you were a long-time high school coach and had experience there. What are your kind of everyday drills for your running backs that you kind of work them through before you get to more day-specific stuff?
The first thing is OTB. That's owning the football. That's teaching guys the proper way to carry a football. I think that's a lost art. it's a lost art. Most guys say, well, I can't carry the ball that way because I can't do this. But you have to teach them how to be able to manipulate, making certain cuts, holding the ball. As I tell guys all the time, think uppercut. Put the ball up under your chin, not on your front breastplate, but on your sternum, with a tight elbow, closing the back door. Those, I think that's an everyday drill right there. Teaching guys a proper way of holding the football. I tell guys all the time, you can't look at guys on the pro level because they hold the ball all kinds of way. But it's not I guess it's not important. For me, it's a standard of how I tell guys to hold the ball. Second thing would be this. We're gonna always do some type of bag drills, but they're gonna be bag drills that I never do a drill that I can't that's not gonna translate over into the game. I think that's just dumb. Just for me to just be out there having guys run a drill and they can't use it in a game, that's not smart. So I'm gonna do some kind of bag drill to work on picking up your feet. I always gonna do some type of drill, as I tell guys all the time. I ask running backs this, because I always want to see what they're gonna say. Is it more important to have elite long speed or superior short area burst? I ask guys that all the time. Because you think about some of the greats who played the position, not all of them had great long speed, but they had superior short area bursts and good COD, good change of direction. So I always tell guys the drills that we do, I want you to do them hard because we're going to try to train short area burst, short area quickness. Going to try teach guys to have good bend in their ankles, knees, and hips. That's something everybody says all the time. And it's so true because if you got good bend in your ankles, knees, and hips, you're able to sink your hips in the ground. You're able to get your outside foot in the ground quick to make certain cuts to get your shoulder pads going vertical. Because that's when I tell guys all the time, that's when you're your most dangerous. When your shoulder pads are not bladed, as I would say. When your shoulder pads are square on with the defender, it helps your vision. I like to do things for training guys' eyes, have them go through the bag drills, and I have number cards. Because I always tell guys, your eyes are going to bring your feet. Trust your eyes. All right? You know you got bags down there below your feet, but trust your eyes. I have number cards to train your eyes because a lot of times guys who play the position, you'll notice guys, you'll say, well, he's tipping through the hole. Well, you'll go look on the film, and the guy on the mesh, the running back will take a peek at the quarterback, giving him the ball. And it throws off his reaction and get into the hole. So now you get to try to train the eyes and have the eyes up where it's supposed to go and trusting the quarterback with the mesh. So now you're reacting quicker. So I got certain drills that I'm going to do every day. I'm going to work drills where you work a spin move. I'm going to work a drill where you work an offhand punch. I never use guys around me to know I don't use stiff arm. When you put a stiff arm out there, you allow a defender to grab that and pull you in. Well, I use offhand punch. Punch creates space, separation between you and the defender, so you can keep running. So I use offhand punch. Other drills I like to use a hump move. When the defender over pursues you, you hump them by. I stole that right there really from watching some of the great DNs like Reggie White and some of the guys back in the day, as they would, guys hump guys over. Rips and dips, being able to rip on the defender's pass. It's certain drills that you can add to a running back toolbox to make them better backs.
And the last question I got for you is, again, we talked a little bit. Actually, I want to modify our last question because, I'm more interested in what was your experience like at Chattanooga? I was just going to ask you about reading ball speed, but I'm kind of more curious about because you played offense and defense there. You started both sides of the ball. What about that experience there has kind of driven you to be a coach?
It was fun. To come in there as a true freshman, and my first game, my first college game, I was a freshman of the weekend. I put up like 150 yards of total offense. My first touchdown I scored in college, I threw a pass for a touchdown. So we played Colorado State, and after that, I had a good freshman year. I played a lot. I wish I had the 4-game rule that they got now. I would have played 4 games and sat down and get ready to be a freshman again next year. But I played my freshman year and my sophomore year, took off at running back. Going to my junior year, at that time my head coach name was Buddy Green. I still remember going in his kitchen in his house and said, Coach, I can play corner. I'm gonna start at corner. And I had never played corner, and went out and played corner, tied for the team lead in interceptions. And going into my senior year, the first 4 games I played corner, wasn't getting a whole lot of action, throwing balls coming my way, and switched over to running back and put up over, I think 14, almost 1,500 yards total offense in about maybe 7 games. So, like I said, I mean, I was a gifted athlete. I worked hard. Like I said, I had a good time at Chattanooga. If I had to do it all over again, no, I still would have picked going to UTC. It was a good school for me. It was a right fit for me. So, like I said, I love my university, and like I said, I'm still close with some people there. That's where I met my wife at. So, like I said, I love my time at UTC was great.
Well, good, Coach. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Coach. Well, coaches. I'll put Coach's Twitter down below. Give him a follow, and if you need to reach out to anything as well. Again, Coach is a great guy, and I think that was a great talk about not only running back play but leadership, service, and kind of his experiences. Again, coaches, thank you. Like, subscribe, so we can spread this video so more people can see this and the other videos and podcasts. And that was another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.